tonight we're going to be talking about what you do when you get your results back for an autosomal DNA test with FamilyTreeDNA, and that is called their Family Finder product. So just as a little refresher, there is three different types of DNA tests that you can do. There's a Y-DNA test, there's a mitochondrial DNA test, and there's a family finder or autosomal DNA test. So the family finder is the one we're talking about tonight, but I just wanted to remind you that there is two other types of tests that you may want to consider. The good thing about FamilyTreeDNA is whenever you do any of these tests, they keep your sample and they keep it for at least 25 years. And that means that that sample can be used to process future tests for you. So if you want to do a Y test, then that will trace your father's 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 line, or a mitochondrial test will do your mother's 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 line. And they are available to just purchase. So you would go into your account and you would purchase that test within your account, and then they know to retrieve your sample from the freezer and to perform it on that. And the really good thing about that is that you can then still do a test for someone who may now be deceased. And we have done that in the past. A couple of years ago, I did a test on someone who died in 2012, and their results come back really, really well. So we upgraded their Y test to the big Y, and then there was still enough sample left over, and we were able to do a family finder because they had only done a Y37, I think it was, up at that stage. So it was possible to do that. So as long as you're the manager and you're giving permission as the kit manager, then that can be done. So that's the three different tests. But as I said, tonight we're talking about the family finder test. Okay, so when you get your results back, you're going to get three different things. You're going to get an ethnicity estimate. You're going to get a matches list, and you're going to get a raw data file. We're going to be talking about all three of these tonight. But you also get tools for working with your DNA. Now, you get tools with every DNA company, and every DNA company provides different ways of analysing and working with your DNA. And to me, I find that the tools on FamilyTreeDNA are probably some of the best, and they are very good for getting high levels of proof with your DNA. And that's something that's very important to me. So I'm going to be showing you some of the tools tonight, not all of them, because I'm not going to have enough time, but hopefully it will give you a taster for what is possible. When you log in and you look at your homepage, if you've done the Family Finder test, this is the section that you will get here. That's what it looks like. And this is where you would get your matches. Then you get your ethnicity estimate there. You can then look at a chromosome browser, and there's other options. So when you click on this see more, that's what you get there. You get three further options. You get matrix, ancient origins, and a data download. So this is if you want to download your raw data, that would allow you to upload your DNA to another company. And that means that you can then put, say, your information onto living DNA or onto GEDmatch, and you would then be able to get matches within those databases. So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. These are different aspects of the DNA test. So starting with my origins, this gives you your ethnicity results. And a lot of people go in and look at that, and then that's that done. And they don't really need to look at that much more, unless they need a little reminder every now and again. But you might remember from my previous presentation, if you're at the one on Irish genealogy, I told you there was a secret button on the census site. Well, there's also a secret button here. And your secret button is here. Compare origins. And I would say a lot of you have probably never clicked on that. So I'm going to show you what happens when you click on compare origins, because it comes up with a very nifty feature. So you click on compare origins, and when you go into that, it gives you the number of your matches who have opted into this feature. And beside that is a little black pin. It just sits there, and there is nothing beside it to say click on me. But that's what you have to do. You have to click on that little black pin. And when you do, it brings up this little pop-up window. And what I normally do is put a tick in both of these boxes. And what this then does is it shows you all of your autosomal matches geographically. Now, I think that's an incredibly useful tool. And it's one of my favorite tools on FamilyTreeDNA, because you're not actually seeing the location of your DNA matches and where they live. You're seeing the location of where their ancestors came from. So you're seeing their Y lines and their mitochondrial lines. So each person is encouraged to put on two ancestors, their father's father's father and their mother's mother's mother, as far back as they know on those two lines. And when you record them, then they are visible on this geographical map to your autosomal matches. Now, only about half of my matches have opted into this feature. So if you click on compare origins and it says opt in, well, before you use this feature, you have to press the opt in, and then this will allow you to see your autosomal matches. Now, this is Google Maps. So what you can do is zoom in really, really closely. But how this can be used is it gives you an indication of where your ancestral lines may be from. So if you're getting lots and lots and lots of matches in Scandinavia, well, then there must be a reason for that, because people aren't plotting their own locations. This is their ancestral locations. And even just looking at the map here, this is my one, you can tell there's a lot more people have, there's a lot more cluster of little pins in Northern Ireland than what there is in the rest of Ireland. And that's because I do have most of my ancestry from Ulster. And that means that I'm getting an awful lot of pins up here. Now, these blue pins refer to the paternal ancestor of your match, and the red ones refer to the maternal ancestor of your match. They are not referring to your paternal and maternal sides, because that information isn't contained within your DNA. So what they're doing here is they're giving you information on where other people's ancestors came from. And when you click on these little pins, you can see the name of the tester. You can see how closely they're related to you. And you can also see the name of the ancestor that came from that specific place. And when you zoom in, you actually find lots and lots of pins will appear from behind the other ones. You can just see there, there's a lot of little ones peeking out from behind. And when you zoom in very close, you'll find there'll be more will appear as well. So I think that's a great feature, and I would encourage most people to try that and see what they find. It is updated instantly when people put in the names of their ancestors. So, it will be updated regularly. It's not even updated once a week. It's updated immediately when somebody inputs that information. So that's the compare origins feature, but it's hidden away in your ethnicity results, and that's why I thought I'd start with that today. Okay, moving on to the match page. Now, I'm just going to explain how the match page works for you. And what you will get over here is you will get the name of the tester. Now, they aren't shown here for reason of privacy, and you'll get them coming down here. When you click on that name, you will be able to see the email address of the person who matches you. And you will then be able to email them and contact them and maybe work out how you're related to them. If they've done a Y or a mitochondrial test, you will see their haplogroup in this column. And if they have added surnames, then you will see their surnames appear down here beneath their name. And when you click on View Details, you will see all of the surnames. Now, you might notice that some of the surnames here are in bold and some of them aren't. And the reason for that is that when you input your own ancestral surnames, FamilyTreeDNA matches those with those of other people for you, and it highlights them. So when you click on View Details, it brings you into a matched surnames page. And then there's another little tab that you can see all of the surnames of that person. but it tries to be helpful and show you the surnames that you have in common. Those surnames are also searchable whenever you're using this feature at the top. So if you were looking for, say, Cleland, which you can see down there, if I put in Cleland up here, then I would also be able to find anybody who had put in Cleland as one of their ancestral surnames. And an ancestral surname is simply the surname of one of your direct ancestors. So when you're putting in these surnames, it's not your in-laws, it's not, who your grandchild married, it's not those names, it's the names of your direct ancestors, because this is all about DNA, and you want these people to be able to find how they're related to you. And when you match on DNA, you're sharing an ancestor. Then over in this column, you're getting a prediction of the relationship range. So second to fourth cousin, third to fifth cousin, or fourth remote cousin. That's the type of relationships you will see there. Now, you may not have these little grey boxes. I'm not going to have time to fully explain the family matching feature to you tonight, but what that does is it breaks down your matches into paternal and maternal, and it marks up your matches as confirmed. So what this is telling me is that this person was predicted to be between my second and my fourth cousin. And when I worked out the relationship, it was proved to be a third cousin. So you can mark them up there, and then this unlocks more information. I'm not really talking much more about that feature. I just want you to understand at the moment that it exists. Then over here, we have the total amount of DNA shared between two people. So that's in that column. And then this DNA is made up of different bits of DNA, because it may not all come and be located in one particular block within your DNA. It may be in multiple places. So what they tell you here is the size of the largest bit that makes up this total. Now, you might wonder why you need to know that. And why you need to know that is the larger this piece, then the more recent the relationship tends to be, because DNA breaks down and the actual segments of DNA get smaller as the generations go on. So as you're more remote from your ancestors, you will have smaller chunks from all of those different people. So if you look at the reverse of that, if you share a very large bit with one of your matches, well, then that's normally coming from a more recent ancestor, because it has to travel from the ancestor down to you and from the ancestor down to your match. And if both of you have a lot of matching DNA, then it's not too many generations from that person has lived. So this is why if you get a match with a good size of a longest block, it probably means it's more recent. So it's another little clue for you. Now, over here, you can get a column for X matches. And X matches is a fourth type of DNA. Now, there isn't a specific test for X, but it's a different type of DNA that, again, I'm not going to be fully explaining today, but we do that on some of our other courses. In terms of X, if you've done a test with either Ancestry or MyHeritage or 23andMe, you cannot identify your X matches because they don't share that information with you. They're just telling you that you have a match. And if you upload to FamilyTreeDNA, or preferably if you test with FamilyTreeDNA, you will be able to see your X matches, and they have a different inheritance pattern, and therefore they can give you information and levels of proof that maybe, it can help you work out something that you wouldn't be able to work out any other way. So an X match can be useful. But really what I want to do is highlight these three little symbols to you here over at the right-hand side. First, you've got a little two-person symbol. Now, if you want to see people that match you and one of your matches, that's what you click on. So say I've got a match here called Rahel. Well, obviously, I know now that they're on my mother's side. And if I click on that little two-person symbol, I'll be able to see all the people on my match list who match Rahel and also match me. So that's called the in common with feature. Then you've got a little family tree symbol. And if you click on that family tree symbol, you will see that other person's family tree. If it's shaded like that one there, then it means they've uploaded a family tree. But if it's white, then it means they haven't yet added a family tree. And then you've got a little notes box right beside that there. Oops. Yes, so you've got a little notes box there. So this notes box is private to you, and you can put in information there. I would normally record things like I have written to somebody on a certain day, or I think they're related to me in a certain way, something along those lines. And that information can be very useful. It's also very useful if you find that two of your matches are related to each other. So you might find that two of your matches are first cousins, or that they're siblings, or something like that. So that's the type of information that is useful, and you won't remember it if you don't record it somewhere, because I've tried, and constantly I've got myself in a habit of recording that type of information. And quite often now I look at my own notes and I have no recollection of recording that note whatsoever. So it just shows the importance of listing this information, because I do find it useful, when I do find my own notes, because sometimes you may not revisit a match for say 18 months or a year. And then you're certainly not going to remember all the details of what you did at the time. So that's what the matches page looks like when you're on detail view. Now, for those of you who've used FamilyTreeDNA before, you may not be aware there's also a table view. And a table view just allows you to see all of this information in a slightly different format. It's not really helping you with any new information. It's just a different format that some people may prefer. And this is what that looks like. So again, you've got the names down the side. You've got the ancestral surnames now in their own column, whereas before they weren't in their own column. You've got the relationship range. The shared DNA is just a number this time. And then you've got all of these little symbols over at the far side, and you've got a column for Y and mitochondrial DNA. But the difference here is that you've got column headings. And how this can help you is you can reorganize your match list by the column headings. So say, for example, you want to look at your X matches, you can just go to the X match column and just click on it. And this will then bring all your X matches up to the top of your match list. The same with Y DNA, with the mitochondrial. So you can see there I have one person who's done a Y and a mitochondrial on this particular section. But if I clicked on Y, it would bring everyone who's got a haplogroup up to the top of my match list. And the same with the mitochondrial. So, there's just different ways that you can use this site. And some people do like to use that view. But I would say that most people probably use the first view, because that's what it defaults to whenever you open it up. So what we're going to look at now is these little buttons here. There's a filter button, and we're just going to come to that next. Oh, no, sorry, we're going to do search next. Sorry, I thought I'd done that already. So when you're using this search box at the top of your match page, what you can do is put in a specific name. So say you've had an email from someone, and someone says, I match you, and they're maybe giving you a theory of how they think they're related to you. Well, then you can look them up on your match list. You can use their Christian name or their surname. And you can just put in the name there and press enter. And what this will do is find you anyone that bears that name. So it brings you up first, it brings you up the actual testers who have that name. But then beneath that, you will see people who have recorded that name as an ancestral surname. So you may, if you put in something like Martin, well, then you will get people that maybe have Martin as a Christian name or Martin as a surname. But then after that, you will get people who have totally different names, but they will have Martin in as an ancestral surname. So instead of maybe having 9,400 matches, when you do a search, you may have 70. You may have 50, you may have 100, depending on how common the name is that you're searching for. So do remember that when you do that search, it always brings you up people called that first, and beneath that, it's people with an ancestor called that. And also, you can even search for a haplogroup if you want. So if you've found out what your Y haplogroup is, or your mitochondrial haplogroup, well, you might want to do a search to see if anyone else has that haplogroup. And again, you just put the haplogroup in there and press enter, and that allows you to do a search on that page. Okay, on to the filter that I mentioned earlier. So the filter is just located at the top of your page beside your number of matches. So it's just there. When you click on filter, it brings up this useful little page at the left-hand side for you. It's just a little pop-up, and what it just gives you a little analysis of your DNA. It's telling you how many people have added a tree to their account and how many haven't, and how many have a private tree. Tells you then how many autosomal transfers, how many people have done a big Y test, how many have done an ordinary Y test, how many have done a mitochondrial test. So it's just giving you some information. And if you tick on those boxes, well, then it will just bring up all of those people to you. So if you only want to see matches that have added a tree, well, you just put a tick in there and press enter, and that will just show you matches that have trees. So there's ways of using your match page that probably an awful lot of people haven't yet explored, and that's one of the purposes of tonight's presentation. So as well as the filter, there's also a sort by field, and the sort by is again at the top of your search page. You can just see it there at the top of my screen. It's over at the right hand side. When you click on that, you get all of these different options here, and you can organize your matches by shared DNA. Now, the default is by relationship range. So when you go into your matches first, they're always organized by relationship range. So you'll always get your closest predicted relationships first. But what you might find is that somebody who's a third to fifth cousin shares more DNA with you than someone who's predicted to be a second to fourth cousin. And for that reason, you may occasionally want to reorganize your match list by shared DNA. We also talked about the longest block earlier, so you could organize your matches by the longest block, because the longest, the person that has the longest block in common with you may be on page 20 of your match list. So you may just want to just do a little experiment there too. You may want to look for your X matches. You may want to look for confirmed matches, even your most recent matches. So there's lots of different options there that you can select. Then you can just opt out of them. Now, when you click on, say, this one for the first time, so when I do most recent matches, it brings me up my most recent match, and then it works backwards. So it's giving me then any matches I got today, then matches are below that I got yesterday, and then the ones from the day before. But if I click that again, or I accidentally click on that twice, what it does is it shows me my oldest matches. So these little options have toggles on them. So they go from one extreme to the other. So when you do the shared DNA and you press it once, it shows you the people that share the most DNA with you. But then if you press that again, it shows you the people who share the least DNA with you. And then if you press it a third time, it comes back to normal again. So just remember that if you accidentally click on that twice, you may get the opposite of what you're looking for. So that's something to bear in mind. If you get confused when you're doing any type of searches or any type of sorts, then I would recommend you just reset your page. If you get confused and you can't do that, just go back into your home page and then just go back into your matches, and they will automatically reset for you. So you don't have fear that you're going to accidentally delete something. Everything's still going to be there because you can't delete your matches. Okay, so here's some advice for you now. If you're starting off, what do you need to do? And we've touched on some of these things already. Well, you need to add a tree, you need to add your ancestral surnames, and you need to add your earliest known ancestors. Now, those are the three things I would advise everybody to do. And I would also advise you to do this for every kit that you manage. Because when you test somebody else in your family, you will have a certain proportion of people who will match them who don't match you. So it's not as if they're going to say, oh, well, I know this is John's brother, and therefore I look at John's tree, because they're not going to know that this is your brother. So they need to have a tree available on each account. And they also need this information, because these pieces of information are cousin bait. You're trying to find a match with someone. So if you just put your DNA on and don't share any information, well, you're nearly preventing yourself from making any progress whatsoever. So when you put on a tree, it has a couple of purposes. It helps you to connect people using the family matching tool, which I said I'm not really going to go into in detail tonight, but it allows you to link your confirmed matches to your tree. And that then helps you to get more information on what side of the family your unknown matches are on. So it's useful for you. But what it's also useful for is for your matches to look at, because they then may be able to work out how they're connected to you. When you're adding a tree, there's two ways now to do it on FamilyTreeDNA. You can link through to a tree that's on MyHeritage. If you don't have a tree on MyHeritage, you can set up a new account on MyHeritage, add a tree to it, and then go in and link it through FamilyTreeDNA. And I'm going to show you where to do that in a minute. The other tree that you can link is WikiTree. So if you are a user of WikiTree, all you have to do is add your WikiTree ID to your profile. Now, we already have a video on our YouTube channel telling you how to do that, but I'll also point you to the place on the website where you would actually add that. So that is just really the name of your ID page on WikiTree. So, for example, mine would be something like McDowell-3252. So it's something like that. And all you have to do is add that on FamilyTreeDNA, and they will automatically link up to WikiTree and show everyone your family tree. So you don't have to do anything more than record that ID. Now, when you add the ancestral surnames, this allows FTDNA to show you people that match surnames. I think you saw that in the previous screen where they were bold. And it also shows it on the little tab when you click on that view details. So matching those surnames is very, very useful. And it's also a searchable field. So if you have entered the name of one of your ancestors, you're basically telling your match that you have an ancestor called that, and that's how they could match with you. So I'm going to show you where to record that information. Your earliest known ancestors are your furthest back on your Y lines on your mitochondrial line. That's the ones I show you that appear on the Compare Origins geographical map. So if you haven't recorded those two names, then they won't appear on other people's searches. So please, it's a 5-minute exercise just to put those names in. But do be careful when you're putting them in, because your Y person should always be a male and your mitochondrial person should always be a female, because it's your mother's 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 mother. The furthest back on that line that you know, that's the name that you put in. And the location you put in is the place that they lived. So this is where you would put in your surnames. So what you do is you go to your home page and you hover over your name in the top right-hand corner. And when you do that, you will see the option Account Settings. When you go into your account settings, you then select this tab here for genealogy. And then you've got 3 tabs will appear for you: Family Tree, Surnames, or earliest known ancestors. Now, if you want to link a tree on MyHeritage, or if you want to add your WikiTree ID, this is where you do it under Family Tree. But what we're looking at here is where you would put in your surnames. And your surnames should be all of the surnames of your direct ancestors. Every surname that you know. So this is the names of your great-grandparents, your 2 times great, your 3 times great, your 4 times great. All of those names are crucial because they may be the connection to your DNA match. So basically, you just type in the name, you put in a specific location for where they lived, and you press enter. And that's all you do. And then it will be added to this list down below. If you want to change them, or if you've made a mistake, or you want to correct the spelling mistake, you just press this little pencil symbol, and that allows you to amend the entry. If you want to delete that entry, just click on the little bin symbol. So I would encourage everyone who's watching this video, even if you put these surnames in, to go in and revisit it, because I could almost guarantee there's at least one name you've forgotten to add, or maybe there is some locations you haven't added in, or maybe locations that you haven't made very specific. Now you can see that I have Northern Ireland in all of mine. And that's because if you just put in a place, this is a worldwide database and people may not know where places are. And plus, there may be multiple towns or villages called the same name. So if I put in Belfast, where I live, well, is that Belfast in Maine, or is that Belfast in Northern Ireland, or is it one of the other Belfasts around the world? I know, but my matches may not know. So why make it difficult for them? So do qualify your locations and make it as clear as you possibly can. But those locations should refer to the earliest known location of where you found the ancestors that bore those surnames. And then just save them. So do revisit them from time to time, but it's important to put these on each of your accounts. Now then you've got this earliest known ancestors, and that's where you would put in the 2 names that you would be recording for your earliest known Y and mitochondrial ancestors. So again, it's the same part of the website. So you're just going into account settings, genealogy, and this time earliest known ancestors. And you type in the name of your earliest known ancestor. Don't forget, even if you're female, it's important to put this in for the compare origins map. And when you put this in, it's the earliest known person you know on that line. Now, I've also got a video on our YouTube channel about how to use a country of origin. And technically, what I should be putting in there, if I'm asked for a country, should be United Kingdom, because Northern Ireland is in the United Kingdom. But if you break this down to a more regional level, it's more specific and it's more helpful for your matches. And it's also helpful for us in the project because we can then identify people with Northern Irish ancestry. So if you want, there's actually 12 different options for different regions within the British Isles. So if you opt for the right country of origin, it just makes it that little bit more specific. So for each person, you're putting in their name, you're putting in an appropriate country of origin from the little drop-down list that's available to you. And then you click on this update location button. And when you do that, you just put in the name of the place that they lived and you press enter. And what that does is that will find you that location on the map and it will work out the coordinates for you. Now, if I'm putting in, say, Banbridge, it will find Banbridge because there's probably not very many Banbridges. But if there is more than one, it will give me a range of options. If it doesn't find the place that you're looking for, you can just go into the map. You can move the map to the area that you want and you can zoom in and it goes right down to street level and you can put the little pin in at a very, very specific location. And once you do that, you just save that location. And once you do that, it then appears on that map that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation, on the compare origins map. So other people can see those two ancestors of yours plotted on the map. And once you've done that for your Y line, you also do that for your mitochondrial line as well. And this is really only a 5-minute exercise, just putting in those names. But do be careful that you're recording the right names according to your family tree. So sometimes it's a good idea to examine your tree first, work out who these people are, write it down on a bit of paper, and then just transpose it into these fields here on account settings. So hopefully that's been helpful to you. So we'll move on now to show you one of the tools that you can use on FamilyTreeDNA if you want to analyze your DNA in a more useful way. And this is features that you won't be able to do on some of the other DNA companies. And this is why I like this ability on FamilyTreeDNA to use their chromosome browser and their matrix tools. So I'm just going to show you quickly how to use these. If you find this hard to understand, you may need to watch this section of the video again. But basically what I would do is I would go into my match list and I would select the person that I want to examine. When I do that, I just put a little tick in at the left-hand side. And what that does is put a little box around that person. And it also opens up this little box at the bottom and it adds that person into this little selection field. Now, then what I would do is I would click on this little 2-person symbol, because now I've identified I want to know more about Jemison. Then what I want to do is I want to look at the people who are on Jemison's match list that are also on my match list. And that's because those people share DNA with him and also with me. So those are the people that are most likely to give me a clue to how I'm related to Jemison. When I click on that 2-people symbol, I then select in common with. So that is telling me that I'm going to see people who match Jemison and are already on my match list. So when I press that, then I will then get up a smaller list of people, maybe a couple of 100 people, and I will be able to then select people from that list. But just before I show you that, I'm just going to show you down here, there's 2 little buttons. There's one for the chromosome browser and there's one for the matrix. So what we're going to do here is we're going to load people into this, and then we're going to be able to use these 2 tools to see what we can find out about these matches. So the first thing we've done is we've selected a match, they've been highlighted, we've clicked on this button and we're pressing in common with. And when we do that, then we select different people that are appearing on that list. So you can see there, I have selected some people and I have added them to the bottom here. So I've now got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people selected. Now, if you want to use the chromosome browser, the most you can select is 7. But if you want to use the matrix, the most you can select is 10. So you can actually put 3 more people in. But if I put in 1 more person, it will then grey out the ability to use the chromosome browser, because I'm only able to compare 7 people there. So if I add an 8th and I decide I want to do the chromosome browser, I have to remove one of them by clicking on this little X at the top right there. You can just see that little X. So as long as there's no more than 7, I will have this option. But my preferred way of using this tool is I put in 7 and then I click on the matrix. And I look at the matrix first, and then I push those people through onto the chromosome browser. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So once I have selected 7, I would suggest that you then click on compare matrix. And what that does is it gives you a little table at the bottom with everybody's name down the left-hand side and everybody's name across the top. And it shows you how your matches match each other. Now that's very, very useful to be able to see that. If you're doing this on Ancestry, it's part of their pro tools and you have to subscribe to do this. But on FamilyTreeDNA, you can do this for free. So it's a very important feature and it's very, very useful. So one of the things I can see, for example, here is that D shares an awful lot of DNA with Danks. They share 2,719 centimorgans. So there's lots of DNA shared. So they are quite closely related. And that may be something that I didn't previously know. So now maybe if one of them doesn't have a tree, I would be able to look at the other person's tree and know that that at least partially represents the family of that other person. But when I go up to the top of the page, I can see that these 7 people have been selected. I can click any of these off, and I haven't taken a screenshot of it, but at the left-hand side of this screen, all of my matches appear in this box. So I can maybe take some of these out and add other ones in if I choose to do so. And above this, you have an option to look at this little matrix in 3 different ways. So you may not want to just see the amounts of DNA shared, which is the default. You may want to see the relationships between the matches. So if I click on relationship range instead, this actually told me then that Danks and D were full siblings. So if you can work that out for yourself from that, then that's maybe all you need to look at is the amount of DNA. But if you want more assurance, you may want to maybe just click that onto relationship range and get an idea of how your matches are related to each other. So that's what the matrix does. And don't forget, you can select up to 10 people for that. But because I've only got 7 people in, it's still giving me this little option. It says compare these 7 people in the chromosome browser. So that means I don't have to go back to the start and start again. I can just push these 7 people through into the next tool. Now I've looked at them in the matrix, I can now look at them in the chromosome browser as well. And this is what I get. I have the different people now. I don't think this is the same. It's not the same people on my screenshot. I've just used a different example here. But all of these little bits of DNA that you see on this chromosome browser have all come to you from specific ancestors. And when you find people vertically above each other, that shows that they are sharing DNA with you and with each other. And this can help you to find that people are related the same way. So in this case, I know that all of these matches are on my maternal side. So that means that Donnelly and Roundtree, who are the red and the blue here, they share DNA with myself and each other. And even this person in yellow at the bottom, so that's McGugan, they also match both of these people and me at the same point on the DNA. So that means we share the same ancestors. So what this is doing is allowing you to relate a particular group of matches to one particular ancestral line. This is not just saying they're maternal or paternal. This is telling you it's a specific line within one of your family lines. And when you use your DNA like this, it's incredibly powerful because this is giving you proof that everyone is related the same way. Again, here, I have got another little example. I have got Roundtree and another Roundtree are both matching each other at that same position, and they're also matching me because this is my chromosome browser. So if you think I'm basically the background, and these colored blocks are where everybody matches me. So I can now tell that they are also related the same way. And this is information that's crucial when you're working out your matches, particularly if people don't write back to you, particularly if you don't know, if they haven't shared a tree, maybe they aren't, there's no information whatsoever, but you can still start to work out how you're related to these people by using these tools. So do play about with the chromosome browser. The only way you'll get to understand this fully is by using it. You'll probably make a few mistakes, but do persevere with it because it's incredibly useful and it's an incredibly powerful tool if you're wanting to prove how you're related to your matches. Okay, so the way forward for DNA. And FamilyTreeDNA has the biggest database of people with North of Ireland ancestry. And by North of Ireland, I mean Northern Ireland plus Cavan, Monaghan, and Donegal. So it's really Ulster. So because they've got a very large database, they're incredibly useful for working out and finding matches, particularly in that area of the world. It is a worldwide database, so you'll get matches all around the world, but it's just particularly strong in Ulster. And what we want to do is encourage more people in Ulster to take a DNA test. When somebody does a test with another company, then they can transfer it into the FamilyTreeDNA database. But that's not an exact duplicate of the FamilyTreeDNA test. It's probably about 70 or 80% compatible. And therefore, it's far more useful if people retest with FamilyTreeDNA. So we do try to get as many people as possible to test with FamilyTreeDNA, but we do also need people who are maybe just mildly interested in their DNA to upload as well from other companies. Because what we're trying to do is get as many people as we possibly can with Northern Irish ancestry all into the one database. And then we can use all of these tools like the family matching and the matrix and the chromosome browser. And this is going to help all of us get much further because those tools are really, really useful when you have a lot of different information points. And that's what a DNA test is. It's another information point of how you're related to your ancestors. We can do more specific comparisons. And those of you who know about our DNA projects, that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to test more people that lived in a specific area so as we can use the chromosome browser to find connections back beyond paper records. And there's no end to where this can take us, but we do need as many testers as possible. So please do get your thinking caps on. If you have tested with other companies, do look at your match lists and do encourage your matches to upload into FamilyTreeDNA. Now, people have said to me, well, I know how I'm related to them, so why does it matter getting them into a different database? And the reason is because of these tools that you can use. So if you're matching somebody at the same place as your third cousin, well, then you know that some of your unknown matches on FamilyTreeDNA, you can now identify that they're on that line. But if that third cousin doesn't transfer in for you, you'll never be able to tell that if they don't test on FamilyTreeDNA. So every match is helping you, but it's also helping everybody else who's using FamilyTreeDNA as well. And it's helping our DNA project to grow and to get more information points that can be used to find out who all our shared ancestors are. So if you want to do a transfer yourself, or if you want to encourage someone else to, then you can use our website to do it. So you go to nfhs.org, and when you do, you can see this little menu at the top of the page. And one of the options is DNA. When you click on that DNA option, these are the options that appear for you. And one of them is transfer your DNA. When you click on transfer your DNA, you'll get some general information, and then you will see 5 little instruction leaflets that are very clear and very easy to use, and they will tell you how to do any upload that you may want to do. Now, many of you may be aware that MyHeritage have recently changed their policy, and they're not allowing any transfers into MyHeritage. So previously, you could test with FamilyTreeDNA or Ancestry or 23andMe and upload into MyHeritage. They won't allow you to do that now. But if you've tested with Ancestry or 23andMe, you can upload into FamilyTreeDNA. And also, if you've done the MyHeritage test, you can upload into FamilyTreeDNA. But do remember that an upload is not an exact copy of the FamilyTreeDNA test. We've got a little helpful video there that's referenced on that page, and it says, "Are uploads sufficient?" It's about 15 minutes long, and it will tell you exactly why an upload, yes, it's free, and yes, it will help you, but it won't give you the level of accuracy that you'll get with a FamilyTreeDNA match. And you will also be missing matches. You may also have some false matches, but that's more explained in the video if you want more information on that. But anyone can also upload to GEDmatch and the Living DNA. And this will also tell you how to do that. So do encourage other people to do uploads, explain to them why it's helpful to them, and also do upload yourself if you haven't done so already. Now, our North of Ireland DNA project is growing, and that's just one of the final points I want to make to you today. We really took off about 2017, and you can see the level of this curve is still going up at the same angle that it was before. It's not leveling off. This is marking people who are joining our DNA project. So what we're doing is we're adding people every single month to our DNA project, and all of these matches are available for you to compare with within our DNA project. At the time that I've recorded this video, we have 10,956 people in our project, and I would expect in years to come that is going to continue as well. So that will just continue on. So why would you join our project, or how's that going to help you? Well, what you can do is you can then compare and see how many of those people within our project you actually match. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So this time you go back to your home page, and underneath the area that we were looking at before that said about your matches and your My Origins, you will find this section here, Additional Tests and Tools. In this section, you will see this option here for Advanced Matches, and that's where we're going to go. That's where you go when you want to compare your matches within a specific project. So you can do this for North of Ireland, but if you've joined other projects, you can also do the same things to compare within those projects. So when you open up Advanced Matches, you get a series of options, and these options depend on what DNA test you've taken. I have got options to compare on Y-DNA because I've done a Y-DNA, and this is my options for mitochondrial DNA. If you haven't done these tests, you won't get these options. But if you've done the Family Finder test, you can put a tick in that box. And then what you do is you select the project that you want to compare within. Now, if you leave this on entire database, all you will do is just get your entire match list again, which is not going to be useful to you. So what you want to do is limit this to a certain section of the match list that's going to be allowing you to do a proper comparison that's going to help you. So in this case, we would ask you to do a comparison within North of Ireland. And then all you do is press Run Report. And when you do that, it will then come up with lots and lots of pages of matches for you. Now, there's 25 people per page, and there's column headings that you can click on to put all of those matches into order, and it will bring up your closest matches to the top for you. And then you'll be able to see those matches. So say, for example, you have matches in the North of Ireland and they haven't added the tree. They have no information. Just because you're seeing them on this list, you now know they have some ancestry from Ulster. Because there's only two ways to get into our project. The first way is you can buy a DNA kit through us, and that means that you've purchased it from the North of Ireland DNA project. The other way to get a kit is to actively join our project. So we, by default, join anyone that we sell a DNA kit to our project. And people are free to leave if they don't want to be in the project. But others around the world who have Ulster ancestry will choose to join our project. And we will only let them in if they have an ancestry from Ulster. So you can rely on that list and know that they will be people with Ulster ancestry. So again, that's a way of finding out something about a match that they may not have shared with you. And this is another clue to how you may be related to them. So hopefully that was useful for you. And also, if you want to buy a DNA test through the Society, you can also email that address. Okay, and for those of you now attending live, we'll go over for questions and answers. Right, thanks for listening.